Now, do you see it?
No. The dot? No. Do you?
No, let me do it again. Oh, no, it's recording. We're recording.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I'll start. Welcome. It's January 29th, and the world has changed. We have our new president and our new vice president, and we have somebody new between two teachers. If you look at our logo, welcome to Between Two Teachers. I'm Madeline Cronenberg.
And I'm Consuelo Lara. Welcome.
And we welcome you from the sacred land of the Chochenyo, Karkin, Ohlone people. It's our land acknowledgement to the ancient tribes who came and were on this land before us. And this is the land we occupy now. We owe it to them. This week, a lot has gone on, all about the coronavirus. The big story internationally is now the schools that have been open in Europe are not reopening until March, at least in England. And they were open much more than our schools here in the United States. Even the ones that did open, Europe was much stronger on opening. But the virus is still very, very dominant on the continent. So the European schools are closed. Nationally, I just found this to be an interesting and a really interesting graphic. This is a graphic of New York, and they have put out a dot because they are open. The schools that are in the red dots are closed. The schools that are the blue dots are open. That's where they are right now. They're able to, red dot is a building that's been closed. A blue dot is a building that one or more classrooms have been closed.
Well,
the gray dot is just.
Yeah, they're mixed up, aren't they? I mean, they're not like separate.
No, it's not like in one neighborhood. It's everywhere. It's everywhere, right? And remember, they have the most children of any district, and they have 1 million children. So that's it. And they're working on it. They're also working on getting the vaccinations. Well, that's the big issue right now is getting vaccines. And so that's everyone in the world is looking at how to address the vaccine issue, right? And so in California, the vaccine plan, they're all saying California's plan for reopening, which is very different from school district to school district and from school to school with this in terms of the private schools. And for most of us, it depends on vaccinating teachers and the infection rates in the communities, right? So for us in Contra Costa County, right now, as of today, what I learned was that the vaccination plan for teachers is that teachers will start to be vaccinated in May. Now that can change. They've already changed it a couple of times. They had them higher up, but then they decided to change it and have it really be by age. Yeah. And the reason was, it was one of the reasons, maybe the biggest reason, was first of all, age is the factor that determines your mortality, right? Your morbidity if you get it. But the other factor was when you're trying to do this mass vaccination, it's much easier for people to check your age than to check your employment.
Sure.
Right? So as soon as you start to say, oh, all the essential workers, and then so who are those people and how do they prove their employment if they're 21 and they come in and then want to get vaccinated? Yeah. Right? That became an issue. So as of right now, it's being done by age, and then they'll get to the next tier once they've reached everybody over the age of 65, and then they'll do it then they'll do the teachers, but we don't know.
Yeah, that's as of today, and tomorrow could be something else. Next week it's something. So you just got to stay tuned. Yeah.
You got to stay tuned, and this is where you stay tuned to the State of California Safe Schools for All hub, where they are working hard to put information up on this statewide website for us to look at. But the interesting thing about this is they haven't started to collect information about whether schools are reopened until January 25th. Up until now, they have not collected that. So we do not have that in any one place in California. January 25th, they sent out a letter to all of the school districts and said, and now it's time for you to tell us if you're open.
Yeah.
But you don't have it, and you don't have it at the county. You don't have a list of who's open or who's closed, right?
Nope. I haven't seen it.
No. So California hasn't organized itself quite that way. And it shows, because there are big differences in how things are going from county to county and district to district. For example, Alpine Union, which is down in San Diego County, has vaccinated all its teachers. And they're back in school full time.
And staff, it looks like.
Yes.
Staff. That's good.
Yeah, they've done it. Big issue in California is the sports league. Let Them Play California has been getting a huge petition around allowing the students to, in fact, be able to play league sports, in particular baseball. This is baseball and softball. And in other states, they're playing. And so this is, you can see on here, it's a private group. They've got 50,000 California members, 50,000 parents who would like to have them be able to find a way to play. So they've been meeting with the governor and a lot of other folks. And so far, we're once again waiting to see whether or not that fits into a certain category or how they're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only other thing I want to mention in this part is something that, we talk about all of this. The coronavirus has dominated everything we're talking about, everything anybody's talking about in schools or anything else. But it's also elevated the possibility of tutoring. And this is a national effort now, because one of the things about being online is you could be tutored by somebody anywhere.
Yes.
The online world opens people up to a national tutoring program. And that's what this working paper is about, is creating a national tutoring program. Khan Academy has one. It's an international one where you can sign up and tutor children all over the world. And Los Angeles, LAUSD has one now for all of their families. So that is just something that I think maybe we need to look at, both at the county level and at the district level.
Absolutely.
And say, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And it gives people, all sorts of people, retired teachers, all sorts of folks who are home, means an opportunity to take a little burden off of the families who are struggling to tutor. And there are other people who have the time now and can be organized to do it. So there are ways to do it. And if you click on the link in the resources, you can see who's out there and what they're doing. And we've done it. We've had some programs in West Contra Costa, but I'm not sure exactly what they're doing right now and what the access is for support. So it's something we should bring up.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that being, we have full service community schools. That's a way it could be, get into the schools to the kids. And then our hubs. We'll talk more about those hubs in a little bit.
Yes. But that's an ideal place. Right, exactly.
Utilize all of these resources. Kids.
So locally, here's what we had last night. the school board had a study session last week uh, on the health metrics around returning to school and reopening our schools. They're going to have another one next Wednesday, but last night they had one with that was run by the teachers union. There's the president of the teachers union, and as you can see, she had a variety of staff and parents and teachers, and it was very heartfelt meeting. It was a community panel that was really discussing the pain families are going through trying to navigate this, and that teachers are as well, and to try to figure out what we can do to mitigate that, and also what we can do to increase rigor for our students, and support our teachers in being able to do that. So it's very, very useful panel, and I think that we just need to keep meeting and talking about it, because there are many angles to all of this.
Yeah, yeah. And everybody's in agreement. Everybody, teachers want to come back, it's
right.
How and when and the conditions,
Right. And look at this. There were 1,000 views to this.
Wow.
It's not like people aren't interested.
Wow. That is great.
Like I said, the arts are still struggling, of course. Well, before we go to that, why don't you talk about the county?
Yeah, well, and even before that, about the hubs, because
The hubs, yeah.
one of the things we were commenting about how in the more, wealthier, places, everybody's back. They're all back to school, whether it's a community or neighborhood or even a town or something. So where the resources are there and everybody is safe and everybody, you need a full-time person to clean, we can hire that full-time person to clean. But where the resources are sparse and the community's more low socioeconomics, there's more need, we don't have all of those resources. And you have a hot spot, so there's this disparity, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So what could we do? Well, one of the things that we could do is being totally ignored. And we've brought it up several times.
Yes, we've been bringing this up since last September.
And there was a presentation by the superintendent about the hubs, which was pushed off by the board. And it has not been shown the light of day. I personally took that PowerPoint and sent it to a lot of city officials so that they knew that this is a possibility. And yet, we're not hearing anybody advocate for these hubs, because what the hubs are, I was trying to explain to people, think about what an after school program looks like, and it's all day. So they get homework help, they can get tutoring, they get food, they get activities, whatever they need during that day. It's like childcare. And that helps the parent, that helps the student, it closes that gap, because they are getting the help that they need. They can't get it home.
Right. And it's not reopening school. We're not saying it's not reopening school. The teachers are still teaching distance learning, and the children are going to whatever the location might be. It might be at the school, because that's a possibility to open as a hub, or at a community location where they bring their digital device with them. And there are people there to help them with the digital device, to help them as a tutor and as a caretaker, as a child care provider.
And there's 3 that we know for sure. Anything could have changed in the last few weeks, but there's one at Hilltop YMCA, Bright Futures,
right?
And the third one is at PAL, downtown Richmond. So there's 3 that we know. And we need more of them. And I think they had on the books 2 more. One is at GRIP. They were going to do, and I forget where the other one. Now they might have passed it. They might, because it was on consent. So who knows? The contracts might have been signed. I hope, that they were, so that we have at least 2 more. But we should have so many more of those little hubs to help those students most in need, and those parents who need that childcare as well. so they can get back to work to help them. And, I don't know why people are not making more. And, the teachers as well, it benefits them to have students who are getting help. It really helps the students. So anyway, yeah, so we'll keep talking about the hubs,
Yep, we'll keep talking about it.
So, and bring you more resources about them. So that's one thing. Okay, so we're gonna go locally. What do we have?
Yes, you're going to talk about the county.
So at the county level, I'm now on the LME, Contra Costa County Board of Education, and we had, I taught in Pittsburgh and I taught in Martinez, and I remember, the county office was kind of that hub. Speaking of hubs, where people came for professional development and they came for networking, etc. Nothing too out of the ordinary, but now is an opportunity. And it's doing what it's supposed to do, I'm sure. But I see a lot of changes that need to happen. So right now we're in the middle of a pandemic where there's institutional racism all the way up to the Capitol. It's amazing. So I just feel like we all need to be in the mindset of change, of thinking outside the box. We cannot do business as usual, and that includes the county. So we're bringing some best practices, and we got to get rid of some of the old stuff. So we had a retreat. It was called a retreat. It wasn't really a retreat. It was a training about the ed code, and
That's what it was. It was an ed code training.
It was ed code training about the responsibilities or the roles of the county. And I thought it was kind of funny that on one hand, the lawyer was saying the code is ambiguous and it's open into interpretation. And then he says, so you have narrow, limited authority. And I said, well, wait a minute, you just said that was up to interpretation. So, but anyway, I think all of us have the same goals. I really do believe that. And I think we can all work together to bring about the best possible practices for the county, 18 different school districts. And I liked this, knowing from the superintendent what her big focus areas are. And so I want to share those. One is CTE. That's a big focus for me, for sure.
Yes.
Man. The community schools, and that's the place where kids get sent, like they're the court schools. They get sent there when they get kicked out, they get expelled. And usually it should be temporary, then they can come back sometimes. So, and that addresses that whole school to prison pipeline people.
Absolutely.
So that's real important. And I believe that disproportionately kids from our area 1 attend those schools. And also juvenile court, that's her third emphasis, which again, same thing.
Right.
Our most vulnerable children that need the most help. And then the fourth one is special ed, which I have a very strong, feeling about those things as well. And I'd like to support all of those things that the superintendent is doing. I think that's great. So, we're moving ahead. And I think like anywhere, you got to start with your philosophy. What is your philosophy? What is your mission? What is your bottom line of what are your values, basically? Right. And so when you look at what the values statement for the county, it looks like something that was written in the 50s. So this needs to be revamped and modernized. And what I'm hoping that we, as this new board, we all get along great. And I'm hoping we'll address those things and bring that perspective, because I think we're all wanting to see change, positive change, and we're going to advocate for kids. And
you have a new meeting coming up to continue the discussion, right?
Yes, we have one in February where we're going to look at goals and the mission. So I love that kind of work, because that's the vision. What's the vision? I love that kind of work. So, and then the other thing is that then your goals get put together on a governance calendar. So this is an important document as well. And we'll be working on that so that when you wonder.
Because that is where your goals go into action.
Exactly. Your measurable goals are right there. So people say, keep asking, what do you guys do with the county? Here you go. These are some of the things we're doing. I'll keep bringing you more and more. If you go on the website, there's a lot of things there that tells you a lot of workshops they have available and events. And then sometimes we're in there, like our teacher from Kennedy, the art teacher.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Manini.
Yes.
Mr. Manini. Yes.
They had a big old presentation there. So it's a great place to honor our great good practices that are happening in our districts. The county that's the perfect place for it to get.
Right. And to share practices from all over the county, because there's, this is a big county. That's the interesting thing. Costa, West Contra Costa is important and large, but it really is a slice of the county.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Right. There's a lot of other folks in the county.
And if we were in, closed in, I remember I was going to set up visits, to these places. I heard about, where they had building construction trades at this place. And so we'll get there. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's where we are, the county.
That's where the county is, I want to say. Well, the county also supports the arts, right? You even have a school of the arts.
We do.
The arts are a big issue, and the arts need to be, we all need to remember the arts are where you learn your soft skills. And I was at a CTE meeting yesterday where they were talking about the most important soft skills that business is looking for, are the most important thing they're looking for, because they can train you on their specific hard skills, because they're going to have to train you on those anyway. But they're looking for your ability to communicate, your ability to collaborate, and your ability to be a creative thinker. And that is what you learn through the arts. So the arts are.
Yeah, and not only that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just not only that, but at this time of great crisis and trauma, the arts really are a way for students to deal with stress and trauma and expressing themselves in a way that they can't.
Absolutely. And right. They are a big part of our social emotional development and a response to social emotional trauma. A huge part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this is for parents. The PTA has a great list of COVID resources for parents, families, and educators, and it's really worth people taking a look at to see, what they've developed. And then there's best practices. So I just wanted to share this out because how I showed you before how California, as of January 25th, which is this week, had decided to ask for the information. New York City, which is the largest school district in the United States, has it. So I went to their little COVID-19 report card, and they have it for every school. And this is a school that was, I picked this one because it was down the street from where I lived as a very little girl. But there it was. There is their report card as of today at Martin Van Buren High School. 358 children are and staff are on site. 912 children are off site. And then they have the number of children. They have, this is where the school is, and this is a percentage of cases and people. I mean, they are so far ahead of California, right? This was just striking to me. It's one of the reasons that they're able to navigate this more successfully, but they really did. And one of the ways they do this is what they put in to keep students able to go to school and have, they call those are sneeze guards. Right. So if you're wearing a mask and you have that, you're not gonna give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
That's why their rates are so low. And North Carolina did the same thing. This is what North Carolina did. This is their famous, route to success, right? The big thing they did was exclusive focus on masking. And at meal supervision, you had 15 minutes to eat, and that's the only time you could have your mask off. And there was no talking. And that's how they kept everybody with their mask on all day, every day. I just found that to be it made sense. When you think about it, it made sense. So that's
Yeah.
them.
They collect the data, they collect the information, they know who has it, they know where they are, they know.
They have to report every day.
And we don't have that.
No, not until we didn't even ask until January 25th.
So with all those unknowns, no, we're not going to go back.
No, they were able to say, here, we know, and then we can do the contact tracing, we can do testing. They're doing all of that.
Yes.
It's not like they're not, they bought all this stuff, put it in their classrooms. It's in their classrooms, and their children are in school.
Yeah.
Right? And they're still having trouble. I mean, we saw, it doesn't mean that it eliminates everything, because we saw the dots, those red dots and blue dots, right? So it's not that families, because especially in New York City has a much higher density than we have here. I mean, people are in buildings, apartment buildings with multi-generational many in one building, right? That's how they've had, they have such density, but still,
yeah,
they've just approached it differently. And I think we have to acknowledge that we can learn from them.
Yeah.
And we're pretty slow.
Yeah, we got to catch up.
It's hard to say that we're not.
In our information.
Now, the Governor Newsom has his plan. His plan didn't even talk about vaccinations. He was talking about testing. And he also wasn't actually giving the school districts the money to even do the plan that he was suggesting. Oh. So he offered money that needed to be applied for by February 1st, which is Monday.
Yeah.
And 70% of the school districts said they weren't going to apply.
Wow.
Now, this is their issues with his plan. Incentives versus mandates to force schools to open for some students. Apply now to get the state money versus push back the date. What the infection rates were for the purple tier versus the red tier. Whether you bring in your youngest students or your most struggling students. It wasn't enough money. And this is the big thing everybody really wants is vaccinations. Vaccinate your teachers so that they can come back, and testing.
Again, I see that there's a big hole of the data, the numbers. We're not seeing that in there. So
no. And so what's happened is everybody has written to him in the education community. These are all these different letters that he received. He received a letter from the 7 urban superintendents on January 6th saying it doesn't work for them. And this is like San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles, Oakland, Fresno, the big districts. Then he got a letter from the management organizations, CSBA, the School Board Association, the administrators, and the support staff, also saying basically the same thing, that this was not going to work. And then the Senate had a hearing. I watched this hearing, and it was so clear from this hearing that there was not enough thought put into this.
Sure.
That his plan could really work. And so it's not going to be passed.
No.
He didn't get the support that he needed because it's not going to be passed. So he and Mr. Thurman have to work it through. This is the way one of the letters, this is a letter that was sent, described it. And it's true, there's multiple layers of effort to improve success, right? The Swiss cheese respiratory pandemic disease defense program. So you go from physical distancing to masking, to hygiene, to not touching your face, to fast and sensitive testing and tracing, to ventilation, to quarantine and isolation, to government messages that make sense, and financial support, and then vaccines. But you need all of those.
Yeah, it all needs to be in place. It's very, very complex.
So the action center is, CTA has an action to allow it to write letters to say, think it through, Governor Newsom, and work with us to figure out a way to be able to be in collective action and all on one team to get our schools open. So that's really the letter they're asking people to send right now. Then this is the one we've talked about before, the famous Social Security letter, which continues to be on. And now they have actually got a bill.
Oh.
Because there's a new Congress, there's a new bill. So you can go to the Cal RTA and find out the new bill to advocate for.
If people don't know what this is, in a nutshell, it is when somebody goes from the private sector into teaching, and then they retire from there, they can get their retirement from teaching, but they can't get their Social Security that they earned in the private sector, which is wrong. That is wrong.
It's just it's like you give it up. It's like a donation. So it means that it makes it, you get punished for moving into teaching.
Yeah, so we need to change that.
It's totally unfair. So now we get to shout outs. So my first shout out is the other letter that went out this week was from CTA. So all of those other organizations wrote one, and then finally CTA wrote one saying the same thing, that you need to have more things in place. We need to look at vaccinations. We need to look at keeping what we need to do to keep everybody safe, our children, our families, and all of our staff members. And so this is the president, Mr. Boyd, the vice president, Mr. Goldberg, and I believe she's the secretary, Ms. Littman, who signed that letter, who are the CTA, leaders. So I have a big shout out to them because they did respond, and they were with a really strong letter.
Great. Yes. Shout out to
And then there's this guy who's like really famous today, Henry Darby. So Henry Darby is from South Carolina, and he's a high school principal. Now his kids are in, because in South Carolina, they actually didn't close. And they're the ones they've got all of the plastic that you saw before, and the sneeze guards and masks, and they're in school. But he's a superstar today, this principal, because he went and got a job at Walmart to raise money for his kids at night. From 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., he stocks the shelves in Walmart. And that's the extra money he has to support his homeless kids.
Oh my goodness.
And so people would see him and say, Mr. Darby, why are you here? I'm here stocking the shelves because I need an extra job to be able to have the money to support the kids in my school.
Oh, that's a hero.
There's so many things about that. Anyway, certainly he was doing it for the right. I mean, he shouldn't have to do this, right? This brings up all sorts of issues. But yeah. Mr. Darby is now won awards. He's been a client. Walmart's given money to his school, and now that it's been elevated for what it is and people are seeing it. And he's been visited by he's getting national publicity, and on Between Two Teachers, we're giving him a shout out. And I just wish, Mr. Darby, that we didn't have to have principals take an extra job stocking shelves in order for our homeless children to be able to get food.
I mean, there are some people who should be ashamed that this is the situation. People who make those decisions that cause this issue, those people should be ashamed themselves to force people to have to do this.
Right.
Shouldn't be.
Right.
But he is beyond, he's done above and beyond for sure.
Absolutely above and beyond. When your principal does that, that's above and beyond.
Really amazing.
Okay, so that brings us to our chuckle.
Oh yeah, we got a chuckle from Carlos today. So this is a climate joke. So what's the difference between weather and climate?
I don't know, Consuelo. What is the difference between weather and climate?
Well, you can't weather a tree, but you can climb it.
Another great joke from Carlos.
Carlos.
Thank you. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.